You ever notice how things fall apart right before something big happens? How life starts to twist the knife just a little deeper, right before the tide turns? It's funny, isn't it? People think blessings arrive wrapped in gold, shining like a beacon, easy to recognize. But no. That's not how it works. Before something great happens, life has a way of breaking you down first, testing you, pushing you, making sure you're ready. You ever notice how right before something big happens, everything goes wrong? Not just a little wrong, spectacularly wrong. Plans crumble, people turn on you, doors slam in your face, and you sit there staring at the wreckage, wondering if maybe you were never meant to have anything good in the first place. That's the trick, isn't it? Life doesn't just hand out blessings like candy. No. It plays a little game first, a twisted little game to see if you're really ready. Most people don't make it past this part. They crack under the pressure. They let the weight of it all convince them that the only way out is to give up. But the funny thing is, that's exactly what life wants you to think. Because if you walk away now, well, that just means you weren't really ready for what was coming, does it? See, life has a way of making sure only the ones who can handle the next level actually get there. And the way it does that? Chaos. Chaos is the last test. The grand finale before the curtain lifts on something bigger. Think about it. You ever seen a storm settle gently? No. Storms rage before they clear. That's how it works. And yet the second life starts shaking things up, people panic. They start questioning everything that is happening to me. What did I do wrong? Maybe I should just quit. That's cute. As if breaking down means you're on the wrong path. No, my friend, breaking down means you're right there, right at the edge of something new. But here's the problem. Most people don't like discomfort. They don't like uncertainty. They want their blessings neatly wrapped, delivered on time with a nice little guarantee that says, no suffering required. That's not how this works. When life wants to give you something big, it doesn't just hand it over. It shakes you first, strips you of what you think you need, forces you to let go of what's comfortable. Because comfort, that's where dreams go to die. Ever wonder why things start falling apart right when you think you're getting somewhere? That's not a coincidence. That's life saying, all right, let's see what you've got. Because getting what you want isn't the real challenge. Holding on to it is. So before you get there, life has to make sure you've got the grip for it. It has to make sure you're not just another weak little soul who'll fumble the second things get tough. But here's where it gets really interesting. Right when you're at your lowest, right when you're convinced there's no way forward, that's when the test is almost over. See, chaos doesn't last forever. It burns hot, fast, and right before it dies out, it hits the hardest. That's why most people don't see the blessing coming. They're too busy running from the fire to notice the door that just swung open. Life will not make it easy for you. It will take you apart piece by piece, make you doubt every step you've taken, make you wonder if you were a fool to even try. But the second you decide to push through, to keep going, to say, fine, hit me with everything you've got, that's when the shift happens. Because the ones who make it through the chaos, they're the ones who are supposed to. Funny thing about being alone, it's never really quiet, is it? No. When the world turns its back, when the crowd disappears, when the applause dies down, that's when the real noise starts. Not from out there, from in here. That little voice that starts whispering, then hissing, then screaming. It tells you you're not enough. Tells you you're forgotten. Tells you if people really cared, you wouldn't be sitting here, abandoned, waiting for something that may never come. See, people don't like being alone. They think it means something's wrong, that they've been pushed aside, left behind. But that's not always the case, is it? No, sometimes isolation isn't punishment. Sometimes it's preparation. But most people don't see it that way. Most people panic the second they feel alone. They start filling the silence with nonsense, reaching out to the wrong people, clinging to whatever makes them feel less lonely, even if it's poison. But maybe, just maybe, being alone is exactly where you're supposed to be. Maybe all that noise, all that distraction, all those people keeping you busy were just in the way. Maybe something bigger is coming and you can't have it. Not yet. Not until you're ready. And that, my friend, is why you're alone. See, before anything great happens, there's always a quiet before the storm. A strange little pause where nothing makes sense, where everything feels still and suffocating. People mistake that for emptiness. They mistake it for being forgotten, but that's not what it is at all. It's the space being cleared, the unnecessary being removed, because when something big is coming, there's no room for what's small. But you don't believe that, do you? No, you think if things were really going the way they're supposed to, you'd be surrounded by people, by love, by support. Ha! You think breakthroughs happen in a crowd? No, no, no. They happen in the dark, when no one's watching, when no one's cheering. That's the part people don't talk about. The part where you have to sit with yourself. Just you. No distractions, no comfort, no noise. Just silence and that ugly little voice in your head trying to convince you that you don't matter. And that voice, it's got a job. Its job is to see if you'll break. If you'll run back to the things that hurt you just because they're familiar. If you'll grab onto what's easy instead of what's right. Because the second you're alone, the test begins. Can you sit in the silence without looking for a way out? Can you stand the stillness without losing your mind? Because if you can't handle being alone, you can't handle what's coming next. People always want something bigger, something better. They want to level up, move forward, get what's theirs. But they never stop to think, what if the reason they don't have it yet is because they're not ready? What if there are parts of them that need to be stripped away first? And how do you strip something away? You take a person away from the things they hide behind. You put them in isolation. You make them face themselves. Most won't do it. Most will run back to the noise, back to the people who make them feel comfortable, back to the same old cycles. But the ones who stay, the ones who get through it, those are the ones who come out different. They come out ready. Ready for what's next. Ready for the doors that are about to open. And when those doors open, they'll walk through alone. Because by then, they'll know that's exactly how it's supposed to be. You ever notice how life has a funny way of testing people? Oh, not with big loud disasters. No. Those are easy. When the storm comes crashing in, when everything's burning, people know what to do. They panic, they scream, they act. But what about when nothing happens? When the doors stay closed, the phone stays silent, when every prayer, every plea, every desperate little whisper just floats into the void, never to be answered? That's the real test, isn't it? Not the chaos, the waiting. People don't like waiting. They think if something was meant for them, they'd have it already. If it was supposed to be theirs, it would be in their hands right now. But that's not how the game works. No. See, The best things, the real things, the things that change you, they don't come easy. They don't come when you snap your fingers or when you stomp your feet. They come when you've been dragged through the mud, when you've had every ounce of patience squeezed out of you, when you've been pushed so close to the edge you start wondering if it's even worth it. That's when people break. They convince themselves that nothing's coming, that it was all just a joke, a cruel little trick. So they settle. They start grabbing for whatever's closest, whatever's now, even if it's rotten. Because they'd rather have something bad than wait for something good. They'd rather take the counterfeit than hold out for the real thing. And that, my friend, is why most people never get what they're waiting for. They trade it away for something less. But you are different, aren't you? You've felt it, haven't you? That pull in your gut, that whisper that says, not yet. Hold on just a little longer. And it drives you crazy, doesn't it? Because you don't want to wait. You want to move, to do, to make something happen. But every time you try to force it, every time you reach for something that isn't yours, it slips right through your fingers, leaving you emptier than before. See, when something is being prepared for you, you don't get to control when it shows up. You don't get to decide when the door opens. All you get to do is be ready when it does. And that's the part no one likes. Because being ready, it means staying in place when everything in you is screaming to run. It means trusting in something you can't see, can't touch, can't prove. It means looking at an empty table and still believing a feast is on its way. Most people can't do that. Most people won't do that. They'll fold. They'll give up. They'll convince themselves they were stupid for ever believing something bigger was coming. And just when they walk away, just when they turn their backs, just when they settle for something less, that's when it would have happened. That's when the door was about to open. But they missed it because they couldn't hold on just a little bit longer. That's the game. That's the test. Not whether you want something, not whether you deserve it, but whether you can wait for it. Whether you can stand in the silence, in the stillness, in the emptiness, and not flinch. Whether you can stare down the void and say, I know what's coming, I just don't know when. People think blessings are all sunshine and smooth roads, like some grand prize handed out to the lucky ones, the chosen few. Oh, how they love that idea. The thought that good things just happen, like magic. They sit there waiting, expecting, like spoiled children staring at a wrapped gift, assuming that any moment now, the ribbon will untie itself. But that's not how it works, is it? No, no, no. See, real blessings, they come with a price, a twist, a little test. Ever notice how before something great happens, everything goes wrong? Oh, not just wrong. Spectacularly wrong. Like, what did I do to deserve everything that kind of wrong? The kind that makes you question every choice, every belief, every little hope you were foolish enough to hold on to. One moment, you think you're on the right path, and the next, it's like the ground's been ripped out from under you. Doors slam shut, opportunities vanish, and suddenly you're left standing there, empty-handed, wondering if you were just some kind of cosmic joke all along. But here's the secret. That chaos, that destruction, that's not a mistake. That's not bad luck. That's the setup. Because nothing truly great, nothing truly life-changing ever arrives without first shaking the very foundation you stand on. People think a blessing is supposed to feel good, that if something is meant for them, it'll be easy, effortless, tied up in a neat little bow. But they don't realize that before you can step into something new, before you can receive something bigger, you have to be stripped of everything that's been holding you back. And oh, people hate that part. They fight it, clawing and screaming, trying to hold on to things that were never meant to go with them. Relationships that are already falling apart. Jobs that have drained them dry. Habits that have kept them small. They beg, they plead, they bargain. Please don't take this from me. Please don't change anything. I just want the good stuff. I don't want the storm. But the storm isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's a filter. It shakes off everything weak, everything false, everything that was only meant for a season, so that when the blessing comes, you can actually hold it. 'Cause that's the thing, isn't it? If you got what you wanted right now in the state you're in, you'd lose it, you'd ruin it. You wouldn't be ready. People don't like hearing that. They think they're ready. They think they've earned it. But then life strips them down, breaks them open, forces them to become more, and suddenly they realize they weren't as prepared as they thought. They weren't as strong as they pretended to be. The things they clung to, they weren't helping. They were holding them back. It's funny, really, the way people scream about wanting something bigger, something more, and then fight like hell when they're put through the process to actually receive it. They pray for growth but reject every challenge that forces them to grow. They ask for change but resist when the old parts of their life start falling away. They want the blessing, but they don't want to become the person who can handle it. And that's why so many people never see it, because they run, they give up. They decide it's too hard, too painful, too unfair. So they walk away, never realizing that they were this close, because that's how it happens, isn't it? The moment of breakthrough never feels like breakthrough. It feels like breaking. It feels like you've reached your limit, like you've got nothing left, like you're just about to collapse under the weight of it all. That's the moment right before the shift, right before everything turns. And most people, they convince themselves it was never coming, that it was all a waste of time, that they were stupid to believe in something they couldn't see. But the ones who don't quit, the ones who hold on, they find out that all of it, the pain, the loss, the confusion, wasn't meant to destroy them. It was meant to clear the way. Because the truth is, you don't just walk into a blessing. You become the kind of person who can handle it. And that, my friend, is why it always gets harder right before something big happens. Not because you're being punished, but because you're being prepared. People think waiting is easy. They sit there, twiddling their thumbs, humming little tunes to themselves, pretending they've got all the patience in the world. Oh, but that's a lie, isn't it? A delicious little delusion. Because when the waiting drags on, when the silence stretches, when the answers don't come wrapped up in pretty little packages, oh, that's when the cracks start to show. That's when people start making little desperate choices. See, people love control. They cling to it like a child clutching a broken toy, convinced that if they just squeeze it hard enough, everything will go their way. They map things out, make their little plans, decide exactly how and when things should unfold. And when things don't go according to their script, ooh, the horror, the absolute nerve of the universe not bending to their will. So they scramble, they rush, they force things that aren't ready, and they call it helping, but that's the thing, isn't it? The biggest mistakes people make aren't in the dark alleys, in moments of rage or madness. No. The biggest mistakes, they happen in the waiting. When the silence gets too loud, when the uncertainty becomes unbearable, when people convince themselves that something, anything, is better than nothing. You're amazing, being half human, and so they settle. They chase after things that were never meant for them. They force doors open that were supposed to stay closed. They take shortcuts, thinking they're outsmarting the process, thinking they're making things easier. But tell me, has a shortcut ever really worked? Oh, sure, maybe for a while. Maybe it looks like things are falling into place. But that's just the trick, isn't it? A cruel little illusion, because nothing rushed, nothing forced, ever truly lasts. And deep down, people know it. They feel it in the pit of their stomach, that little whisper saying, "This isn't right." But they ignore it. They convince themselves that if they just keep pushing, keep pretending, keep forcing, everything will be fine. And then one day, it all collapses. That relationship they knew wasn't right, it crumbles. That opportunity they forced their way into, it turns to dust. That path they rushed down, hoping it would lead somewhere good, dead end. And suddenly they're standing in the wreckage, wondering what went wrong, wondering why everything fell apart, when really, they knew all along, didn't they? They felt it. They just didn't listen. Because listening, really listening, means surrendering control. It means trusting that just because something isn't happening now doesn't mean it won't happen ever. It means accepting that some things take time, that some doors aren't opening because you're not ready to walk through them yet. But patience? Oh, that's not a word people like. They think waiting means wasting time. They think if they're not doing something, they're falling behind. But sometimes the only way forward is to stand still. And that's what separates the ones who truly make it from the ones who fall apart. The ones who succeed, they don't rush. They don't panic. They don't throw themselves at things that were never meant for them just because they're afraid of standing still. No. They wait. They trust. They understand that the best things, the real things, don't need to be forced. Because what's meant for you, it doesn't need your panic. It doesn't need your shortcuts. It will come when it's time. And if you're not willing to wait for it, you'll never be ready to receive it. People like to believe they're in charge, that they've got the whole game figured out. Oh, the illusion of control. What a joke. They plan, they scheme, they set their little timeline, thinking the world is just gonna fall in line. But when things start slipping through their fingers, when the pieces don't fit the way they expected, that's when the fun begins. That's when you see people crack. See, nobody likes uncertainty. It makes them squirm. It makes them doubt. And doubt? Oh, now that's a nasty little thing. It eats away at them, makes them question every move, every choice, every step they thought was so certain. And that's when fear creeps in. That's when they start looking for exits, start taking detours, start making deals they never would have considered if they were still comfortable. And that's the thing, isn't it? Comfort. People are addicted to it. They don't even realize it most of the time. But take it away, strip them of their safety nets, their guarantees, their sense of knowing, and suddenly they're exposed. Suddenly they're staring into the unknown, and oh, do they hate it. Because the unknown means risk. It means anything could happen. It means things might get worse before they get better. And nobody wants that. They want the reward without the risk, the outcome without the process, the victory without the battle. But life doesn't work that way. No. Life, real life, it's tested, it's refined, it's pushed to the edge. The ones who really make it, they've been through the fire, they've lost, they've struggled, they've sat in the silence, in the waiting, in the not knowing, and they didn't run. They didn't try to take shortcuts. They stayed. They let the process shape them, mold them, make them into something stronger. But the others, oh, they break. They panic. They grab at anything that looks like an escape, even if it means selling themselves short. And then they wonder why things keep falling apart. They wonder why nothing ever lasts. They think they're just unlucky, but luck's got nothing to do with it. It's not about luck. It's about foundation. And a foundation that hasn't been tested, that hasn't been proven, it will crumble the moment the pressure hits. And here's the real kicker. Most people never even realize how close they were. They quit too soon. They give up right before the breakthrough. Because when things get hardest, when the weight feels unbearable, when it seems like there's no way forward, that's usually when the shift is just around the corner. But they don't see that. All they see is the struggle. All they feel is the pressure. And instead of holding on just a little longer, they fold. Because deep down, they never really believed they could make it. Not fully. They hoped they could. They wished they could. But belief, real, unshakable belief, that's rare. That's dangerous. That's the kind of thing that can't be taken from you, no matter how hard life tries to break you. And that's the difference between the ones who rise and the ones who fade away. The ones who rise, they're not fearless. Oh no, fear is there, doubt is there, the uncertainty, the discomfort, the pain. It's all there. But they don't let it control them. They don't let it dictate their moves. They don't let a little pressure make them forget who they are. Because they understand something most people don't. The struggle isn't there to stop them. It's there to prepare them, to strip away the weak parts, the fragile parts, the parts that wouldn't survive on the other side of this. The part that keeps them afloat, the part that prepares them, the part that prunes. And if they can hold on, if they can stand their ground when everything in them is screaming to run, then they'll come out of it different, stronger, sharper, ready. But most people, they won't get that far, because most people would rather quit than be uncomfortable. Most people would rather lose than wait. Most people, when faced with the fire, run. And that's why only a few ever really make it.